I'm going to throw one more out there. I don't think they will do this, but I think they should strongly consider Micah Parsons from Penn State. He is an unbelievable difference-making player, and I think there are very real concerns with both Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith. What are the odds that both Smith and Van Der Esch are healthy all year and play well?
Why? Why did you think it was such a good fit, even though linebacker has kind of been devalued these days like the safety position?
Yeah, so first of all, I think that that's a little bit overblown. You know, that's something that people like to say a lot. You still need to have somebody playing that position. And if they're a 3-down guy, they're still out there all the time. I think what people have confused in my mind is the fact that teams are in nickel or substitute defense, whatever you want to call it, 70% of the time. Okay, that's great. You know, that they're in nickel a lot. We get it. You still have at least one and usually two linebackers that are out there, and more often than not, that's who these teams are trying to pick on. I mean, they're trying to get running backs against linebackers, sometimes tight ends against linebackers. I think that has been a little bit overblown. There are some teams that have that philosophy, but look, and we talked about it last time, the team that won the Super Bowl, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there's no chance they win the Super Bowl without Devin White and Levante David. Devin White, the 5th overall pick in the draft, and Levante David, a guy they've given 2 huge contracts to. So, I don't know, I think that part of it gets a little bit overblown. I would agree that D-line is more important. I would probably even agree that corner is more important. But if it's a guy that can truly impact the passing game, like Micah Parsons, a guy that can be an unbelievable blitzer and pass rusher, I think I told you guys, he's like the best high school pass rusher I've ever seen. I mean, we're from the same hometown. Like I watched him at defensive end have like 20 sacks a year as a defensive end. He never even played linebacker until he went to Penn State. And if you listen to him yesterday on the Ross Tucker podcast, like he's still kind of learning how to be an off-the-ball linebacker. It's scary how good he could be at that position. I saw the 3rd game Micah ever played because he played against, my old rival high school. And I literally texted the guys at Penn State that I know, and I'm like, this is the best freshman high school football player I've ever seen. They went into the school the next week, looked at him, and gave him a full ride. Like, he had a full ride to Penn State after his 3rd game as a high school freshman. Like, he was just that guy. And then I obviously followed him, and look, he transferred schools, and there were some issues. So I know him well, but I watched him at Penn State. I was highly skeptical of them moving him to linebacker. You guys know, it's a totally different world having your hand in the dirt and being on the end of the line of scrimmage versus being off the ball in the middle of the line of scrimmage. I mean, you got guys coming at you from everywhere, and his freshman year, he didn't start. He still led them in tackles, but it was really just because he was so big and fast and he would just chase people down. Mm-hmm. But his second year, 2 years ago, it's like it clicked, and when he's coming downhill, I think he's a difference-making player. And RJ, we talked about this last time. It bothers me that you don't acknowledge the difference-making plays that Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith made a couple of years ago. Was that 3 years ago or 2 years ago? There was a year or two, okay, where Jalen Smith and Van Der Esch made a lot of difference-making plays. Now, Van Der Esch's neck is obviously a mess, and they don't pick up the 5th-year option. I think that tells you all you need to know. And Jalen Smith, I don't know if it's the knee or he's just not the player. I agree with you that those guys aren't really making difference-making plays anymore. That's why I thought Parsons might be an option. That's why I thought you need somebody at the second level of defense that can make some plays. I don't see any of those guys really making plays anymore.
What is it that you like about Micah's coverage ability? Because everything we've heard from scouts is that he's very raw in coverage. He's got a lot of ways to go in terms of his coverage ability.
So I'll tell you a quick story. This is an unbelievable story, by the way. he went to Penn State football camp. I want to say like maybe before his junior year, and he just wanted to mess around. So he went out and was playing wide receiver and corner. Okay, there was a corner from the D.C. area that Penn State was going to offer a full ride that day. He could not cover Micah, pretending he was a wide receiver. I mean, Micah was at the end at this point, 235 pounds at the end. He goes out to high school. Goes out to wide receiver. He torches this kid so bad that Penn State doesn't offer him a scholarship after that. So he is really athletic and can cover people. The part about Raw is fair. He's only done it for 2 years. He's better at this point in his career going forward. He's better as a blitzer. He's better as a rusher. So I wouldn't be surprised. He told me, look, I had him for 20 minutes yesterday on the Ross Tucker podcast, and we talked about all this stuff. It sounds like he's a guy that they're going to use moving forward for the most part on passing down. So, it might even be a deal where they have a nickel safety or a nickel linebacker come in, and Micah is more the designated blitzer, or he's man-to-man on some guys. I just don't think he's got a great feel for zone coverage yet as a zone drop linebacker, which makes sense. This isn't like a former safety or corner that you move up to linebacker. This is at the end that you're dropping back. So he's going to be stronger on anything to do with blitzing or rushing than he is. Like, I wouldn't even use him in coverage that much. He can do it, but I would blitz him and rush him as much as you possibly can. I was down in San Antonio 3 years ago for the U.S. Army Bowl, and when he was still playing the end, not one of those guys, and they all end up being five-star guys, not one of them could block him. Not once. He could beat any of them at any position whenever he wanted to and sack the quarterback.